I just got done watching Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. This is the sequel to not just the original Puss in Boots, but as well as a continuation of the Shrek franchise, but really much just continuing that spin-off. It takes place many years after the last time that we saw Puss in Boots, and I did not know how to feel about this movie when it was announced. I said, you got a great cast, but you're doing a sequel to Puss in Boots? You're not going back and doing Shrek first? That feels a little bit weird. But after seeing this movie, this is an argument that can be made that this is the best animated feature of 2022. I'm going back hand in hand if it's either Del Toro's Pinocchio or this movie, but I loved Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And this is coming from someone who, I didn't love the first Puss in Boots movie. I thought it was fun, but as a gigantic Shrek fan, I love the first two Shrek movies. And Puss in Boots has always been my favorite character from that entire franchise. And I love the way that Antonio Banderas plays the character. And truly enough, that last spin-off they did, the first one, it was enjoyable for what it was because of Antonio Banderas, but I did think it could have been better. And I think this is the best version of it. You don't need to see that original one really much at all, but if you know the character from Shrek, it is a great continuation of this world, and I'm very excited to talk about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, because this movie is about Puss in Boots. Discovers that his passion for adventures has taken its toll as he's burned through 8 of his 9 lives. Puss sets out on an epic journey to find the mythical last wish and restore his 9 lives. Now again, it stars the likes of Antonio Banderas, Selma Hayek's back as Kitty Softpaws, Harvey Guillen plays Pero, this really cute little puppy, Florence Pugh plays Goldilocks, John Mulaney, Wagner Moura, Ray Winstone, Olivia Colman. I mean, truly enough, the cast, the voice performances go on from there. And just with any of the Shrek movies and anything in the Shrek franchise, they very much touch on a lot of the fun fairy tale aspects and a lot of these characters coming to life. There might even be some Easter eggs hinted at towards the original Shrek characters, and maybe even some cameos as well, where you'll be like, hey, I remember them. Oh yeah, I remember that concept and what had happened there. And overall, when it comes down to like looking at those aspects, it's a lot of fun, and if you're a Shrek fan, you're going to enjoy that, specifically some of the stuff towards the ending of the movie, and even some of the stuff towards the beginning. I was just getting very giddy with all that, and excited to see potentially what they could do with this, and I hope this movie succeeds so we can see further out what they can do. I mean, reality is they can bring back Shrek at any point, but it's the other characters that I want to see more of, and specifically, I want to see a continuation more of Puss in Boots. I think there is more story to be told here, and that is a very good thing at that. So make sure to leave your thoughts once again down below, as well as hit that like and subscribe button if you love talking movies over here, because that is my favorite thing to do over here on a daily basis. So diving back into my pros, the first thing I want to talk about is the performances, because I think the voice performances here absolutely excel each and every one of the characters. Now, Antonio Banderas is like perfect casting as Puss in Boots. In every sort of way, this guy just nails the voice role, and I love it. And Puss in Boots, for me, is a character that has a lot to learn about in this movie, because he is the most daring and also kind of selfish person that we've met in the Shrek franchise, and also just does not fear death. And that catches back up to him once he hits his final life. Before I really continue through the rest of the voice cast, I want to talk about that, because this movie, compared to the first movie, is a big step up. I found the first one to just kind of be a fun little side adventure, but really could have just been a nice little short that they add on and tack on to any of the other animated movies, but it was extended for an entire runtime, and I feel like this one actually does have a story and themes to talk about, and actually has some of the most deeper themes than I think that we've seen in the Shrek franchise, probably since the very first one, or even the second movie. And those themes really tackle into death and being afraid of death. What happens when death comes knocking at your door and you know it's coming at your door? And it's kind of a nice exploration of not being afraid of it, but also appreciating the life that you're living right now, and maybe certain aspects of not changing that, because reality is a wish can do a lot of things for one person, but maybe on that journey to find that wish, you start to figure out that no, that's not what I truly need. I need this. And appreciating the life that you're living right now with the loved ones that you have, and to being alone is not the best thing in the world. And again, I was very excited and happy to see how this film actually tackled life and death itself. I think that's where I just go as far as say, as great as the themes can be in here, and its deep dive into confronting death and learning to love life for what it is, the voice performance by Antonio Banderas adds a lot to that, as well as Selma Hayek. Now, Kitty Softpaws we saw in the original Puss in Boots movie, and she was fun for what it was, but this is very much an added bonus to this all. And I really liked seeing Antonio and of course Salma Hayek and the way that their voices just go off. You actually do feel a spark, a great chemistry between the two characters and between the two voice actors, even if it's just voice acting. A lot of that goes down to the writing, a lot of that goes down to the performance as well. Harvey Guillen, who I've never really seen in anything, but I know he's in What We Do in the Shadows show, which I've only watched a couple episodes of, so I've really only seen a handful of him. And I know, guys, I need to watch that show. I love the movie. I need to catch up on the show. But for me, him playing Pero was a great addition in the way that they kind of brought this character. And I thought at first, I was like, I don't know how this character is going to go. He plays this cute little dog. And overall, by the end of the story, I loved what they had done with Pero, and I think it was a great little pairing to throw him in between Puss in Boots and Kitty Softpaws as well. But in this movie, of course, there is multiple antagonists, such as Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and Goldilocks is played by none other than Florence Pugh, who Florence Pugh is great. At first, I knew she was in this movie. For some reason, I thought she was Kitty Softpaws, so I was waiting for Kitty Softpaws to come in, and then Goldilocks comes in, I'm like, no, wait. That's Florence Pugh. And she is so great as Goldilocks, as well as the Three Bears are great. Every single one of the people that plays them. John Mulaney as Jack Horner was actually a big standout. I didn't even know it was a Mulaney until the credits had rolled, and I was like, oh, Jack Horner, he's really good in that role. And Wagner Moura, who plays the big bad wolf in here, or Death, is exceptional. Again, I was very impressed with all the voice acting, and I think voice acting is one of those things that kind of goes away so many times, and especially when we get big actors like this, sometimes they can mail it in and not give a lot of gravitas. One of my biggest issues with DC League of Super Pets very much felt like it was Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson playing those characters. There wasn't a lot of added oomph to that, and maybe part of that could have been the script as well. But with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, it reminds you how important voice acting is, and I really loved each and every one of the actors in here and what they actually brought to the roles. Other reason that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is fantastic, and I truly mean this, is the exhilarating action scenes in here. Every single one of them absolutely put a gigantic smile on my face, and I could not stop watching them and just gazing in such awe, as well as the new animation style they take for Puss in Boots in here. Now, I kind of like it. It kind of fits for the whole fairy tale style. I'm excited to see if they keep it going forward, if they decide to do more Puss in Boots movies, or do they touch on more into the Shrek franchise, or maybe even if they bring the Shrek franchise back in that realm. But I was really, like, the animation here is phenomenal, and it very much is arcane mixed with Spider-Verse style, and some of it, you know, you can be like, oh, well, they're just copying those, and for sure, I mean, that is a popular animation style coming up right now, but it's hard for me to disagree and be like, oh, yeah, it was not needed. It added a lot of emphasis to it, and I'm happy to see that it wasn't just the typical style that we've been seeing before, and I think in the vein of what Puss in Boots is here for and all the different areas that they go for on this adventure, it adds a lot of context, and again, adds a lot to the exhilarating action scenes that I was talking about. The very first one in here is so freaking good, and I, again, was just jaw on the floor, smiling, and having such a blast with each and every one of the set pieces. Back to my argument could be made that this is one of the best animated films of 2022, if not the best one. And going hand in hand between Del Toro again, and it's hard to go in hand in hand between Del Toro, because honestly, when it comes down to any cons or nitpicks I have, it really just comes down to, sometimes I feel like there's a little bit too many villains, and for me, I would have maybe picked one of them out and kept the rest in. But other than that, I was so impressed with this. Puss in Boots, like I mentioned, is my favorite character from Shrek, and the fact that this is a fantastic surprise with exhilarating action, phenomenal animation, and perfect voice acting, I was truly in love with this movie. I'm already in talks to go see it again at one of the early previews playing that's coming out before this review, but as this review is coming out, I cannot emphasize enough, if you're a fan of Shrek or Puss in Boots, or just in general want a really good animated movie for the holidays, this is one of the best, and I loved this movie. It's almost perfect. So with all that said, I'm going to give Puss in Boots: The Last Wish an A-. A surprise. Going into this, I was like, why are they making this movie again? And I completely see why. They had a great idea and a great script, and I'm so happy they went ahead and made this. But let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are. I look forward to a Shrek ranking of all the Shrek movies, including this brand new Puss in Boots movie included in there, probably coming within the next few days. But of course, guys, until next time, have a happy holidays and stay classy.